All right, family, we are on that last point. This is a time of fiscal solvency. What that means is it's the ability of a person or a business or an organization, let's just say the ability of your family to pay their debts and still have cash and for their future needs. That's just the simple, most basic fiscal solvency that I think just clearly identifies and explains what that means. Now, what I want to do is really introduce you to um, at least three movies, and I'm sorry, two movies, and reiterate a place where you need to go and look for an understanding of what has occurred. And what I mean by that, we are still in the middle of financial crises, and we need to understand various things that are traits of those crises to make sure that we don't repeat um, actions that could cause us to go back into debt. Um, in 2008, following the major GFC, that's the global financial crisis, um, the, the U.S. government held um, an, um, an inquiry, as it were, into what happened. What happened? And it's on C-SPAN. They looked at a number of different things that took several days, but I can tell you that it's worth going back and refreshing your understanding of what occurred. But one of the ones that I looked at was the financial market regulators that occurred in October of 2008. This is still in the C-SPAN archives. And this is where they actually questioned the head of the Feds at that time, or who had recently become the former head of the Feds, but it was Alan Greenspan. And I actually asked some very hard questions. I also asked some questions of the SEC director as well. But really listening to what their remarks were really made me pause. But from out of everything that was in those videos, there was this one statement in particular that Alan Greenspan himself made that he found a flaw. And from that one statement, there was a movie that was made. It's called The Flaw, and I've only been able to find it on Amazon Prime. It may be available in other on other websites like Hulu or what have you. I'm just not sure, but definitely on Amazon Prime, there is a very, very good explanation, real life, of what happened during that global financial crisis. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not, what happened during 2020 and we are coming out of was a global financial crisis. Now, part of the bonus that I told you that I would share with you will literally show the number of times that our financial system has gone through some level of collapse that required buyouts, that required a bailout. And every time that that occurred, the feds, and that particular bonus, we'll talk about who the feds are a little bit, but the feds actually acquired key pieces of companies, technology, data, assets. Let me call them assets. Key assets were purchased during every bailout. And when you actually research out the feds, and I'm talking about the feds, you kind of recognize that they really they're not a part of this government, because your own government wouldn't downgrade basically your rating. That's like me, I'm over my own checkbook, and I'm like, Erica, you know what? I'm downgrading you this month because you didn't pay me. And we really saw this during that global financial crisis. We really saw this during the time of the Obama administration, when there were threats being made by the feds that if we didn't make our interest payments on time, that they would downgrade the U.S. debt. They would downgrade us. And I'm like, okay, well, that was odd to me at that time. I had never really done a study. So that was actually odd to me. So I don't want to get off onto that. I'm just telling you that that's what that Japheth's conspiracy is about. And you will see the number of times that we have gone through some level of financial collapse, and you will see what was acquired during those bailouts and those buyouts. But as I was pointing out here, this is a time of fiscal solvency, and I really encourage you to take a few moments to go back. It's about an 80-minute long documentary, and it literally gives real life examples of what that global financial crisis did in the lives of people. It shows what was going on Wall Street behind the scenes, what was going on amongst those various investment banks. And it gives, I think, a very good explanation. I'm going to show you about a 3-minute clip, as it were, so that you can actually listen to just the intro, and you know, let it kind of, like, maybe I need to go look at that. Now, a movie that I saw in 2015, and it was, I don't want to say a reenactment of some of those investment banks that could see what was going on, and they capitalized upon the opportunity being presented at that time, and they made away like a bandit. So that movie is called The Big Short, and that was made in 2015. Those two movies, along with the C-SPAN, I'm sorry, let me not say two movies, that one documentary, the movie, and the C-SPAN's coverage of the U.S. Representatives, them inquiring into what occurred. I believe that those are just some key things that we need to maybe take a look at and ask Father to give us a plan. But some of the things that they highlighted was they promised things that would ultimately cause a downfall, cause oppression, and cause captivity. And we have to hit that place of fiscal solvency to owe no man nothing but to love them, and to not become surety for anyone, to become the lender and not the borrower. We actually have to start activating the principles that are required, and because there's a lot of deception that is going on, and individuals are being deceived out of an inheritance, whatever that inheritance is for you and your family. During the last crisis, they literally stripped the equity from out of homeowners, like something you were about to own. They encourage you to take out a mortgage, whether seeing you had a dire need and or recognizing your desire to improve the status of your family and reinvest in real estate at that time. But they were stripping out equity from these homes. It also spoke about fraudulent and deceitful lending practices that were occurring very specifically in certain neighborhoods. It spoke about there being loopholes and a lack of transparency. And quite honestly, all of those issues have not been fixed within that financial system, which is why we are in another collapse. And it is not simply because of COVID-19, because when you look at what was going on in the stock market, in the housing industry, and you comparatively compare that to the wages, the same thing was occurring. Nothing new had changed, but they were just repeating the same things, and they had found other ways in order to do it. And what the inquiry from the government, the U.S. government, was that it pointed to a need for a new regulatory system for the financial sector. And even now, we see that we are at the beginnings, not the beginnings, we're in the midst of another transition. We're in the midst, just like they transitioned from carrying gold, they started trading in what became known as treasury notes. And then we moved from treasury notes to credit cards. Now we are now moving to Bitcoins and other cryptocurrency, because we're in the shift of the financial system into a new platform. And you can see things like Amazon doing the palm scans, and the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin is the biggest thing now. And so we need to recognize what this means and ask the Most High to give us a plan and a strategy. You will hear that over and over because of the times that we are living in. We cannot take counsel within ourselves. We have to ask Father to direct us and to lead us, help us to discern. Because in so many instances, no different than now, just like then, is the same thing now, only exasperated. There's just a mere appearance of desire and accountability. And we saw that over and over again throughout 2019, from 2008 up until now into 2020. And it has not just been the financial sector. It's been within governments. It's been within the police and agencies. It's been just so broadly spread, again, because of what lies in men's hearts. And so this is the hour that you and I have to ask the Most High, very focused on, give me a long-term fiscal plan, a true long-term, short-term. You ask for a fiscal plan and a pathway to true debt freedom, to true fiscal solvency, where my debts are paid and I still have the ability, Most High, to transact in the way that I need to do business and or in the marketplace. I can teach this to your children. I continue to stress that. Teach it to your children so that your generations after you do not go backwards into debt. Our forefathers, they we used to own property, and then levels of deception came in, and the desire to want more and more, and we go back into debt. We go back into captivity. And you, again, when you look at the flaw, it highlights some of that. It highlights how less than 1% is like 0.00 hold a vast majority of the United States gross domestic product, of the wealth in this country. We need to be aware of that. And they are not promoting giving us income. It is more so, I'll give you more debt. I'll give you as much debt as you want. And we need to question that. And that, again, that documentary speaks to some of that. It was really, really very well done in my eyes, because it made me think, and I like that. One of the things that I have been stressing, saying, reiterating, and learning myself, the Most High said, let your needs be simple and your portions be small. He said this in 2020. In 2020, let your needs become simple. Let your portions become small. So that we would stop heaping things upon ourselves that we should not. It is the thing, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life that can cause us and lead us to go back into captivity for longing for things that we really do not need. Recognize what our needs are, and there are significant differences between wants and needs. Our needs are based on what happened in the wilderness. Knowing that the Most High is a good Father, He provides for His children. Our needs, clothing and food. Clothing and food. Because He is our shelter. The word declares that they wandered in the wilderness, and He was their covering. And so He didn't say, I built them a house. No, He said that they wandered in the wilderness. He was their covering, and they had food sufficient, more than enough, and their clothing did not wear out. Our two needs was food and clothing. He is our covering. And so this idea, and because we get programmed so very young and so very early, and it's a perpetual programming of this American dream to live in this so-called big house, and to own the big house, you're full of debt. All right, I won't get off on it. I just want you to think about what our real needs are. Ask the Most High, Father, what are my needs? Because, I look at the prophet Elijah was comfortable with a bed, a lamp, and a chair. And yes, that was just him. Now expand that enough to encompass your family, however large or small it is, whatever the size, and ask the Father to see to your needs. Okay. Close the doors of obligations. We have to close the doors to obligations. It drains us. It causes us to go places where perhaps we should no longer be, because we feel this need to have, because I have to pay this bill. Limit your debt to income ratio. We have heard this all along, so this is not anything new. If you've been under a pastor, such as myself, who actually, and I so appreciate their heart for that. I have to say that, Father. I appreciate where he has set me. But it was a ministry that poured into the people and fed them with truth and knowledge, and also gave us what we needed. So again, and one of those things that was very big was financial freedom, debt freedom. So limit your debt to income ratio. So that means if you get a $5,000 raise, you do not go out and begin to spend $4,500 more per year, but you save and or reinvest that. You do your tithes. You do. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But we have to learn to close those doors. It gives the adversary an access that he should not have. Ask the Most High to teach you and I how to accrue. That's what the tithe was about. When they could not go up to the temple to bring the Most High an offering, they would set it aside and they wouldn't go into it. They wouldn't consume it, the word declares, in their sorrow. They wouldn't consume it during the times of great trial and seeming great lack. But my word tells me that the Most High sees to all of my needs according to his riches and glory. But to ask the Most High to teach us how to heap up. That's what accrue means. It means to heap up and accumulate so that we can have an advantage in any situation or time that we face. Recognize, and I have to listen to this point here. You and we need to recognize that it is dangerous to trust in things and or ideas that shift. The flaw that, Alan Greenspan was dumbfounded when he said there was a flaw in my ideology. It had been working for 40 years and a flaw appeared. Well, the flaw was the epicenter of a major shift lies within the secret lust in the hearts of men. You can't discern that outside of the spirit. But there was such a lust, and there continues to be. That's why the word declares there's nothing in this world but the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. But there was such a lust and a euphoria, a greed, a love for money that it shifted morals. And I have to say that morals are still shifting. We see the shift. And there's much I could talk about right there, but let's not close our eyes and say we do not perceive the shift as the children of the Most High. We do know right from wrong. But morals are shifting, and there's a great corruption, and that the word speaks to that there will be darkness and gross darkness, and the people will be darker even more than that. There's a gross darkness in the hearts of men that is growing. For there is no concern beyond my own personal interest, let alone the interest of my neighbors. But the concern is, and it's been a growing concern, and it did not used to be that way. But the concern is, I'm concerned about my own equity and the well-being of myself above all else. In some regards, even above the family. What's going to make me do what makes me feel good? And it means having such a concern for my own well-being above doing what is equitable, doing what is right, doing what is just, doing what is fair. The word tells us that in the last days, men will be lovers of themselves. And we can no longer deny that we are clearly seeing all of this unfold. It's been unfolding before our very eyes for many years now, and it's only going to amp up. And I'm telling you, so that your family and your generations after you do not go into debt or remain in debt, to ask the Most High for a plan of fiscal solvency, a plan to escape, a way of escape. The word says this: what can the righteous do when the foundations are being destroyed? It answers. We need to remember that the Most High is in his holy temple continually. He sits on the throne in the highest of heavens, and his eyes are beholding all. His eyelids are testing and trying the hearts of men. He's looking to see if there are any among us who have understanding, or for that matter, who would seek for understanding. So I just encourage you, with everything that is trending in this hour, that we take time to stop. Ask the Most High for a plan. Ask him for his spirit, his sevenfold spirit, to not only rest on you, abide within you, guide you, lead you around, and be willing to follow. Family, that's all I have for today. I'm going to share, as I said before, you can come back and look at this on the website. I'll get it published up. If I'm going to share within that, I'll make sure that at the end I share the notes as far as some of the references that you can go to, and then the bonus feature will be the Japheth's conspiracy, and that will be maybe an article perhaps where it will highlight what has been purchased, acquired over the years, because there has been something that's been accumulating, and it has been a well thought out plan that has been executed, has been strategized over, and it's literally unfolding before our very eyes. And you and I, we need to discern it. Before we leave, I just want to pray for you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you for this time of being, first of all, in your presence. And I thank you, Father. It's been so pleasant just to be here and to have all of creation around me, and knowing that it's your hand, is you refreshing each and every one of us every day. And we just thank you for it. We continue to pray, Father, that you would be glorified in everything that we do, and everything that we read, and everything that we publish and or announce. And in particular for this teaching, Father, I pray that it will go to the places where it is needed most, and it will penetrate into the hearts and into the minds of your children, and that they would follow your guidance and your leading, and allow you to equip them for the days that are ahead. I pray, Father, that you would give unto each and every one of us the armor that is needed and required in this hour, so that we can stand in the midst of this evil day. Show us what's trending and help us to understand it. Help us to discern. Show us how to pray. Give us your wise strategy and your counsel. Now, Father, I thank you again, and I seal this time and these your people in the precious blood of Yeshua HaMashiach. And I just simply say, so be it, and it is so. Hallelujah. Family, until next time, I pray that you are encouraged. I pray that you are empowered. I pray that you are filled continually and infused throughout your whole entire being by the strength that comes from Christ Yeshua. Allow him to strengthen you in your inner man. I bless you profusely in the name of the Most High, and I'll see you next time. Blessings.